Continuing our audiobook series, this is part 3 of first chapter, that is historical background. It extended the principle of communal representation by providing separate electorates for Sikhs, Indian Christians, Anglo-Indians and Europeans. It granted franchise to a limited number of people on the basis of property, tax or education. It created a new office of the High Commissioner for India in London and transferred to him some of the functions thereto performed by the Secretary of State for India. It provided for the establishment of Public Service Commission. Hence, a central public commission was set up in 1926 for recruiting civil servants. It separated for the first time provincial budgets from the central budget and authorized the provincial legislature to enact their budgets. It provided for the appointment of a statutory commission to inquire into and report on its working after 10 years of its coming into force. Simon Commission. In November 1927 itself, that is, 2 years before the schedule, the British government announced the appointment of a 7-member statutory commission under the chairmanship of Sir John Simon to report on the condition of India under its new constitution. All the members of the commission were British and hence all the parties boycotted the commission. The commission submitted its report in 1930 and recommended the abolition of diarchy, extension of the responsible government in the provinces, establishment of a federation of British India and princely states, continuation of communal electorates, and so on. To consider the proposal of the Commission, the British government convened 3 round-table conference of the representatives of British government, British India and Indian princely states. On the basis of these discussions, a white paper on constitutional reforms was prepared and submitted to the consideration of the Joint Selected Committee of the British Parliament. The recommendations of this committee were incorporated with certain changes in the next Government of India Act of 1935. Communal rewards. In August 1932, Ramsay MacDonald, the British Prime Minister, announced a scheme of representation of the minorities, which came to be known as the Communal Award. The award not only continued separate electorate for the Muslims, Sikh, Indian Christians, Anglo-Indians and Europeans, but also extended it to the depressed classes, scheduled caste. Gandhiji was distressed over this extension of the principle of communal representation to the depressed classes and undertook fast on to death in Yerawada jail, Pune, to get the award modified. At last, there was an agreement between the leader of Congress and the depressed classes. The agreement, known as Pune Pact, retained the Indian joint electorate and gave reserved seats to the depressed classes. The Government of India Act of 1935. The Act marked a second milestone towards a completely responsible government in India. It was a lengthy and detailed document having 321 sections and 10 schedules. The features of this act were as follows. First, it provided for the establishment of an All India Federation consisting of provinces and princely states as units. The Act divided the powers between the centre and units in terms of 3 lists. Federal list for centre with 59 items, provincial list for provinces with 54 items, and concurrent list for both with 36 items. Residuary powers were given to the viceroy. However, the federation never came into being as the princely states did not join it. It abolished diarchy in the provinces and introduced provincial autonomy in its place. The provinces were allowed to act as autonomous units of administration in their defined spheres. Moreover, the Act introduced responsible governments in provinces, that is, the governor was required to act with the advice of ministers responsible to the provincial legislature. This came into effect in 1937 and was discontinued in 1939. It provided for the adoption of diarchy at the center. Consequently, the federal subjects were divided into the reserved subjects and the transferred subjects. However, this provision of the Act did not come into operation at all. It introduced bicameralism in 6 out of 11 provinces. Thus, the legislatures of Bengal, Bombay, Madras, Bihar, Assam, and the United Provinces were made bicameral, consisting of the Legislative Council, Upper House, and the Legislative Assembly, Lower House. However, many restrictions were placed on them. It further extended the principle